The X-Files. Ghost in the Machine. Read by Carrie Shale. Crystal City, Virginia. Home of the Erisco Building, the world headquarters of the Erisco Corporation. Sheathed in dark glass, the skyscraper jutted 30 stories into the air. You could almost hear it say, "I am your future." Right now, in a huge office on the top floor of the building, two men argued about that future. You had only to look at them to realize how differently they saw things. One of them wore an expensive suit that fit him to perfection. His full head of graying hair was neatly shaped. He stood behind a very large and very neatly organized desk. The man across from him wore a dark t-shirt and faded jeans that hung loosely on his wire-thin body. Uncombed dark hair bushed out around his head. But what you saw first was the intense gleam in his eyes behind the metal-rimmed glasses. The thin man was Brad Wilczek, founder of the Erisco Corporation. "Why do you think Erisco's stock price has dropped like a lead weight?" he demanded. The other man, Erisco's CEO, Benjamin Drake, smiled. It was the smile of a man talking to a child who was having a temper tantrum. "Profits were poor last year," Drake said, "and they won't improve this year unless we reduce costs." "Wrong," Wilczek snapped. "It's because you've cut the budget for research and development in half. You've forgotten that the business of Erisco is tomorrow, not today. You've forgotten what the adventure is all about." The smile stayed on Drake's face. "Like it or not, the computer software business is changing. We're not an infant industry anymore. We're playing hardball against the big boys. We have to be lean and mean. We have to cut the fat." "What we have to cut is fat cat greed," Wilczek said. "We have to sacrifice short-term profits for long-term goals." "Let's not go through this again. We've already had this debate at our stockholders' meeting, and you know which side they voted for. Who are you trying to impress? The scanner up there?" Drake glanced at the ceiling. A red light glowed on an electronic eye connected to the building's Central Operating System, or COS. With hundreds of other scanners all over the building, the system kept tabs on everything going on from the basement to the top floor. Wilczek glared at Drake. "Don't you get it? You're killing me. You're killing my company." Drake's smile stayed in place. "Erisco isn't your company, Brad," he reminded Wilczek. "Not anymore. Better grow up and get used to it. Now why don't you go and let me do my job?" Drake watched Wilczek storm out. Then he took off his jacket and sat down at his laptop to write the announcement of the change in command at Erisco. It was night when Drake finished. He reread his final paragraph. "As my first major act, I am ending the COS project. Despite our high hopes, its dismal sales and rising costs make no other choice possible." Drake nodded with satisfaction, pressed the save key, then shut down his laptop. Yawning, he stood up and stretched, put on his jacket, and headed for the door. Before he reached it, he heard the sound of running water. It came from the bathroom of the executive office. Grimacing, Drake went to see what the trouble was. His feet sloshed in water on the tile bathroom floor. The light coming in through the open door let him see water overflowing from the black marble sink. He went to look more closely. The faucet was on, and the drain seemed stopped up. "Another reason to terminate COS," he muttered. "If it can't even run this building right." He went to the sink and passed his hand over the faucet. The water flow stopped. "At least this electronic control works," he thought. The basin, though, stayed full. Drake took off his jacket, rolled up his sleeve, and plunged his hand into the water to try to free up the drain. But before he could finish the job, the phone in the bathroom rang. "If it's not one thing, it's another," sighed Drake, and yanked his hand out of the water. After shaking it to get rid of some of the moisture, he picked up the phone. "Hello?" There was silence. "Hello?" A computer-generated voice came over the line. "At the tone, Eastern Standard Time will be 7:35 p.m. The sound of the door, slamming, drowned out the rest of the message. The bathroom was plunged into darkness. Drake heard the electronic lock on the door snap into place. What the— He hung up the phone. He went to the door and felt for the magnetic card key slot. He slid his card through the slot, then tried the door handle. No luck. "Oh, rats," said Drake. "I guess I'll have to try the old-fashioned way." He took a keyring from his pocket. He felt for the heavy key he needed and found the keyhole. He inserted the key and— A fireball exploded in the bathroom. The flash was the last thing Drake ever saw. His body flew backward through the darkness and slammed into the bathroom mirror. Benjamin Drake landed on his back on the wet tile floor, hands and arms outstretched, his body motionless. Above him, the red light of the scanner glowed ominously. Halloween was coming, and a plastic jack-o'-lantern decorated the bullpen at FBI headquarters. Special Agent Jerry LaManna stared at it. The jack-o'-lantern grinned back. Of the two, the jack-o'-lantern looked a little more intelligent. To be fair to Jerry, he was not really stupid. He was just not very smart. He had done one smart thing at the FBI, though. He had been Special Agent Fox Mulder's partner for a year. Jerry looked back on that year fondly. It had been fun to actually solve cases, which was why he had come into the bullpen looking for Mulder now. At the moment, though, he couldn't stop looking at the candy balls that filled the jack-o'-lantern. He knew he shouldn't have any. He was 15 pounds overweight, according to his last FBI physical. Still, one candy ball wouldn't hurt. Besides, he needed the energy. His hand snaked into the jack-o'-lantern. It came out stuffed with candy balls. He popped one into his mouth and dropped the others into his jacket pocket. You never knew when you would need a quick pick-me-up. This job was one emergency after another. Sometimes Jerry wished he hadn't watched so many cops and robbers shows when he was a kid. Then he might have gone into some other line of work, but he had invested too much time in the FBI to write it off now. Jerry scanned the room. His gaze darted among the agents, shooting the breeze, sipping coffee, and grabbing lunch. His face lit up when he spotted Mulder. Mulder and his partner, Special Agent Dana Scully, were getting lunch at a food cart. They turned around when a voice boomed, "Mulder!" Mulder forced a smile when he saw who it was. "Hey, Jerry, good to see you." Jerry gave him an eager smile in return. Mulder found it easy to imagine Jerry as a puppy dog, madly wagging his tail. Then Jerry shifted his smile towards Scully and stuck out his hand. "Dana Scully, right?" Jerry said as they shook hands. "I'm Jerry LaManna. Mulder probably told you about me." "Nice to meet you," Scully said. She raised her eyebrows toward Mulder in a silent question. "Jerry and I worked together in violent crimes," Mulder explained. "Hey, what's this work together stuff?" asked Jerry heartily. "We did more than just work together. We were real partners. Right, partner?" "Yeah, right, of course," Mulder said, looking at his salad with great interest. Meanwhile, Scully had chosen a tuna sandwich on 7-grain bread. The man running the food cart glanced at the tray Mulder and Scully shared. "That comes to $8.50, he said. "My turn, Mulder," said Scully, opening her purse. Jerry whipped out his wallet. "I'm buying you two lunch," he announced, pulling out a 10. He slapped it on the food cart as if it were 100. "Why, thanks," Scully said, and gave Mulder another puzzled look. Mulder, though, wasn't puzzled. "Having trouble on a case, Jerry?" he asked mildly. "Matter of fact," Jerry began. Then he paused and looked around. Look, maybe we could discuss this in private." "We can go to my office," Mulder said, spearing a cherry tomato. "Good idea," Jerry said. He turned to Scully. "Of course you're welcome to come along. 3 heads are better than 2. "I'd be glad to," Scully said, curious now. "I can even offer you dessert," said Jerry, pulling out a couple of candy balls. When the 3 of them entered Mulder's basement office, Jerry shook his head. "Never could figure out why the brass stuck you down here," he said. "Bright guy like you." Then Jerry looked around Mulder's office and shook his head again. "Never understood how you could work in all this clutter. Me, I like things nice and neat." "Some of the cases I deal with are, messy," Mulder said, waiting for Jerry to get to the point. He didn't have to wait long.
Matter of fact, the case I'm on now is kinda messy. You probably heard about it. The CEO of the Erisco Corporation was found fried in his private office. The cause of death was electrocution.
It wasn't accidental? Scully asked.
It doesn't look that way. It looks like some kind of elaborate booby trap. But we don't know how it worked or who set it up. The building engineer found the corpse just 12 hours ago.
Why is the FBI on the case? Mulder asked.
Erisco has some government contracts. National security could be involved.
Are we talking about weaponry?
Well, not according to our info. Of course, you never know, but it could be other government programs. You use computer software for all kinds of stuff.
Who's running the investigation? Scully wanted to know.
You know Nancy Spiller?
The forensics instructor at the FBI Academy? Asked Scully. Our official guru on death and its causes?
Yeah, her,
Jerry said. I remember taking her course. We used to call her the Iron Maiden.
Well, that's on her good days. One mistake and the spikes go into you. Anyway, she's putting together the team on this, and after she picked me, I took the liberty of suggesting your name.
Mulder stiffened. Look, Jerry, I'd like to help you out on this, but we're not on general assignment. Agent Scully and I have been channeled into special investigations.
Yeah, I know, the X-Files. That's where you went when we split up as a team. I remember you didn't really think it was my kind of thing.
Well, as you said, we're different types, commented Mulder. Neat and messy. You were better suited for violent crimes. They're usually on the simple side, nice and neat.
Oh, not this one. Look, Mulder, I don't like to beg, but I need your help. I don't want to drop the ball on this one.
You won't drop the ball, Jerry, Mulder said. He hoped he sounded more convinced than he was.
This case is too heavy for me to take the chance. The dead man, Benjamin Drake, wasn't just CEO of a giant corporation. He was a close friend of the Attorney General. It would be a real feather in my cap to nail the killer. Believe me, I could use one.
Oh, Jerry, I'd like to help you, but
come on, Mulder. Have a heart, for old time's sake.
Scully smiled to herself as she saw Mulder hesitate. She knew Mulder could not pass a panhandler without forking over some coins.